Welcome to the Get a Life podcast. Explore survivor stories. Uncover the hidden truths. Join our X-Called conversations. You matter, and so does your story.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Get a Life podcast. I am Cheryl Bottenheimer, and today with me on the panel is Lane Admiral, and our very special guest is Trent Waskey. We are all ex-members of the Exclusive Brethren, now known as the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church. Welcome, guys.
Hi. Hi.
For the last couple of years, one episode has been mentioned to us more than almost any other, Podcast 110. It was the audio of a 19-year-old sitting through a priestly visit while senior Plymouth Brethren Christian Church leaders, Mick Strange and Diplock, and local priests accused him of crimes, threatened him with prison, warned him about hell, demanded written confessions, and repeatedly told him that if he didn't submit, they would take this matter to the police. It was one of the most raw and disturbing windows into life inside the PBCC that we've ever released. In the podcast, we didn't release the name of who that teenager was, but that young man was Trent Waskey. Many of you also saw Trent tell part of his story on the Australian Four Corners documentary. But after both the documentary and podcast 110, we received the same question over and over again. What happened next? How did Trent get out? How did he overcome everything we heard in that recording? If you've ever listened to that priestly visit, you'll remember a frightened teenager trying to defend himself while being told he was on the road to hell, that he was a stupid, naive idiot, and that he could end up in jail if he didn't write the statement they wanted. Throughout it all, you'll also hear something else. You hear someone who keeps asking questions, someone who refuses to confess to something he didn't do, despite enormous pressure to simply give in. For many people still inside the PBCC, that recording was deeply personal because they've lived through similar priestly visits themselves. For others who have left, it became a reminder of just how powerful fear, authority, and spiritual coercion can be. Today, we finally get to hear what happened after that recording. Trent is going to talk about how he dealt with the pressure, how he reached the point where he knew he had to leave, and what life has looked like since. If you're still inside the PBCC and listening secretly, wondering whether anyone has ever felt the same fears you do, this episode is for you. If you've already left but still struggle with guilt, fear, or the lasting effects of religious trauma, this episode is for you too. And if you've ever wondered whether it's possible to come out the other side of a priestly visit like the one Trent experienced, not only survive it, but build a completely new life, then I think you're really going to appreciate hearing Trent's story. I want to remind everyone that the lead interrogators, Mick Strange and Diplock, are multimillionaire directors of All Fasteners USA and Control Tech USA, respectively, and are also two of the three directors of the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church, incorporated in Ohio, USA, placing them at the very top of the church hierarchy. So Trent was literally up against Bruce Hales's right-hand men. If you haven't watched episode 110, now is the time to go do it before you listen to Trent's story. So Trent, I'm going to hand it over to you, and let's start with the biggest question we all had. What happened right after that priestly? And walk us through how you got out.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So what I could do is I could start with kind of an overview of how I got into this situation and kind of, what I wanted to talk about. But yeah, I guess the quick version for anybody who doesn't know me, I was born into the church. My family was all in it. My whole world was in it. I left in April of 2017, coming up on 10 years now. But kind of the main story is that a few weeks before I left, two priests basically barged into my family home with two senior priests on the phone. And they basically spent an hour and a half trying to force me to confess to something in writing, basically a federal crime of hacking that I didn't actually do. And so I decided to record it. And as far as I know, I think it's one of the only public recordings of what one of these priestly visits actually sounds like. And then that recording ended up on the Four Corners documentary. Cheryl, you published it prior to that on this podcast here. And yeah, thank God it all happened because quite honestly, it led me to where I am now. So yeah, I'm happy to get into all of it and kind of talk about how it all went down. But yeah, I think it was a very pivotal moment. I had already been thinking about leaving prior to that. And yeah, happy to get into some of those details. But it was probably the single biggest pivotal moment that opened my eyes and made me realize, these guys are bullies. The system is fake. It's a fear-based control system. And it's, time to claim my actual life and go live it.
Yeah, I think the feedback we got after Get a Life published that was so many of the insiders related to the bullying that was happening inside there. And it's ramped up in so many localities and countries since Get a Life has exposed so much of what goes on and behind the scenes. And I think it was so pivotal that we got that recording, we're able to release it, because we can sit here and we can talk about how horrific these priestly visits are. I went through them for years inside Maple Creek in the PBCC. And when I heard that audio, I was able to myself have a level of healing of like, yes, thank you. Now we actually get to show the public what these priestly visits are like clear across the whole globe. This is what the priests are like. Mick Strange and Diplock, and in that interrogation, were the classic example of what everybody has gone through. And I think, how you handled it was what so many of the insiders really sat back and were like, how did he do that? Because so many crumble under that fear. So many give in because they threaten with family. They threaten so many different things that they don't have the capacity to stand up with the fear. I mean, I've had tons of insiders that I've talked to and then I don't hear from anymore because they've crumbled underneath the pressure of the priestly visits. So I think, Trent, we all commend you for not only asking them to record it, but to follow through with the recording and then also to be able to stand up to that type of coercion. We could feel the fear in your voice. We knew you were also crumbling inside, but there was just something inside you that held you steadfast to being able to be like, I'm not giving you what you need and what you want. I think that's the biggest thing that so many insiders were like, I want to be like Trent. How do we do that?
I don't know if you want to be like me, but...
No, I 100% agree. I went through a lot of priestly visits as well when I was a young teenager, and I did not have the tactic to stand up to them like Trent. I used diversion and questions. Like I would, ask questions about the Bible, just try to divert. But Trent, what's amazing about that recording for me was how you stood up to them, and they were relentless. They were threatening, we're going to throw you in jail and ask questions later. Like, as if that's real, but and it was admirable the way that you stood up to them and were like, no, I didn't. You guys actually don't know what you're talking about. But before we even get into that too much, could you tell the listeners a little bit more about what led you up to that in 2017? Tell us a little bit about where you were in your headspace. Were you kind of already thinking about leaving as a younger teenager, or was it kind of just something that when they accused you of this hacking that kind of pushed you that way?
Yeah, I'm glad I get to talk about that because I feel like even internally, I hope my dad listens to this. I think even they kind of misconstrued the actual reasons that I left. So I think, like a lot of people, it was a slow progression and a build up over time. I think it started probably when I was 12 or 13. I was a very, very curious kid. I was always the guy who was asking, yeah, but why? Like, okay, that's a good explanation, but why? Why do we do it that way? Why do we believe in this? And I was very, very inquisitive and I wanted to know information. I wanted to know answers. I'm still that same way today. I love to get to the ground truth of something. I think that unfortunately branded me as like a troublemaker when I was a kid, at least in schools and stuff like that, because I was a little bit rebellious. I've never liked authority. Anyway, so I think it started when I was 13. I would start to question things about the church. And then that progressed into me getting my own phone, which was really pivotal because once I got that, And this is well before kind of the Brethren had their own like devices and everything. So it was like if you were seen with a cell phone, it was like game over. So yeah, I basically did lawn jobs and I saved up some cash when I was a young teenager to go out to Radio Shack and buy a phone because I knew I needed external information. And thankfully, our family, I'm not exactly sure why. I think it was because my dad was involved with one of the immigration teams that the Brethren had set up to try to like move people across countries and stuff for their marriages. He had been given one of their early, I think it was called a WordX. It was like one of their very, very early PCs at the time. And so I sat on that computer. And so that means we had an internet connection to the house, which is also very rare at the time when you're in the Brethren. I think we were one of the early ones. And I literally credit that like dial up internet connection with everything because I sat at that computer and I just wanted to know how it worked. And so I figured out how to uninstall and remove their restriction, like the software that they had put on it. And then once I had done that, it was like, well, now I have the internet. And so you can kind of bootstrap your way to figuring anything out once you have the internet, like, because it's this great resource of information. So anyway, I'm being long-winded here, but yeah, I got access to the internet. I got my own phone. And then from there, I started to immerse myself in like external culture. So I'd watch YouTube. I'd like start to watch movies, just try to understand how the world worked. This is all like through teenage years. I didn't want to leave at that time, but I was just growing more and more information. And now, okay, there's bullshit here. They're not who they say they are. The history of the Brethren is not what we're being taught. Just the more information I got, the more inconsistencies and discrepancies there were. And so I think that culminated, around 18, I started to realize like I want connections outside of the Brethren. I want friends. I want relationships. I don't want this to be my life is in this little circle, in this bubble. So I don't know if there was I'm trying to think if there was like a specific turning point so much as a long burn and realizing at some point, I do remember thinking to myself, at some point, I'm going to have to leave. It's just a matter of like who, what, where, when, how.
Yeah.
And so I'm a very like, I love to like formulate plans in my head and like go over things 5 different ways in my head. So yeah, I just tried to imagine how I could do that and where I'd go, like who would I stay with. So it was like a couple months of just kind of brainstorming what my options were. So anyway, I forget what the original question was, but that was kind of my lead up to wanting to leave anyway.
And then how did the hacking accusation kind of tie into this? How did that kind of, you were thinking about leaving. How did that kind of lead into you being a suspect and them accusing you of all these things?
Yeah. Okay. So that all happened. Basically, I was having private Skype conversations with a cousin of mine. And at that time, I knew I sort of had a friend in him. And so at that time, I felt he was safe to start to share doubts with, being like, this doesn't quite make sense. What do you think about this senior leader? Like, I've heard some stories that he's done some not so good things. Because when you're in it, and the people listening who are in it will know this, you don't know who you can turn to and express doubt. You can't do it to your brother, to your sister, your parents. Like, you don't know who is a safe space to say some of this. So you kind of have to test the waters a little bit and be like,
absolutely,
are you cool? Are you thinking like I'm thinking? Like,
yep.
And I found a friend, and my cousin. So I started to share some of these things, and he was basically he was on a similar path, but at that point, he was really trying to convince me, like, don't question things. Like, this is the devil getting in. This is the doubt. At that point, I had already Googled, am I in a cult? I'd done the quiz. I'd gotten the 100% score. No, literally.
Really? Sorry to stop you there, Trent, but I've never heard an insider ever say that they'd Googled, am I in a cult, or done the test. That is the first time I've ever heard that from someone that did it while they were inside. After getting out, yes, but that's the first time I've heard that.
I'm surprised to hear that. I would say, well, listen, everybody should do it. Listen, if you're afraid of finding out information, then that's a problem. Like, you have to entertain the idea, even if it's purely hypothetical, you have to entertain the idea that there might be something going on here. You have to entertain doubt. And I'll say it probably 1,000 times throughout the episode, but you can't let the fear, you have to give the doubt and trust your gut and give the doubt a place and listen to it and say, okay, well, what if? Let's entertain it for a second. I'm not being evil. I'm not hurting anybody by entertaining. Like, what if this is all a farce? So yeah, I Googled, am I in a cult? There's like a million different quizzes and I took, I don't know, probably like 10 of them. And I got like 95%, 93%, 100%, 10 out of 10. And like, wow. There's differences between cults, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So, for one of the answers, it's like, oh, well, we're not big on recruiting. Okay, well, that drops the score down to a 95%. But I was like, I've always been a math guy. I've loved math. I'm a big statistics guy. And I'm like, okay, if this is the numbers that are coming up across all of these different sources, I'm going to take the average and say, I'm in a fucking cult. Like, I'm not going to be stupid. So yeah, I figured that out in that journey. Anyway, so going back to the hacking allegations, I was basically just getting really frustrated that my cousin was not kind of listening to reason. And I'm like pointing out all these things. And he's like, well, no, that's just doubt getting in. So anyway, I regret the whole thing, but I was being very stupid and I had bravado. And I was like, well, listen, I have information that you don't have. Like, I got access to stuff, because he always knew I was like good with computers and whatever. That's always been sort of my MO. And I was like, no, I know things that you don't know. Like, trust me. And I basically alluded to the fact that I was like inside the UBT's email servers. And he was like, holy shit, how do you know this stuff? And it was dumb and I regret it. But I didn't hack anything. I didn't actually.
So you basically like exaggerated and kind of like, as a teenager, I did the same. Like, basically what you had access to, and we're like, I know this information. And so did he then get worried that so he basically thought you had hacked them? Is that kind of what happened? Or he kind of.
Okay. So there's a little more nuance. Let's get into the whole thing, because let's just share the whole thing, exactly how it went down. So at that time, I was sort of the broker of, if you need outside access to the internet, like, Trent will, help you figure out how to set up your phone, or he'll like. So anyway, at this time, some time had passed. The Brethren had laptops, they had computers, they had Streamline 3, but they were locked down. So I was sort of the broker of open internet. And so he knew that, and he would come to me and say, hey, like, I want to be able to access the outside internet. So I set up this, I don't want to get too in the weeds or too technical. It's basically a virtual private server. It's a server in the cloud that's essentially rented, and you have shared logins, and multiple people can share and use this. And because it's a server in the cloud and I own that infrastructure, the Brethren can't see it. They can't see what you're doing, whatever. It's not restricted. So anyway, I had shared access to this computer with him, and he had logged into his email account. He had saved his password. I viewed that and I told his password back to him. I was like, no, listen, you don't understand. Like, I know how to get into these email accounts. I told him his password that was saved on my computer. That's what I was trying to explain in the recording to these guys. And they have no idea. Like, they have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to computers. So no, nothing was ever hacked. He used my computer, saved a password. I read it back to him, and then he believed me because I gave him his password. And it was like, shit. I think at that point he freaked out. I don't blame him for this. Like, rightfully so. That was stupid of me.
But Mick and Rod just want to know how you did it so they could do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I could see how I could totally understand that, right? Like, no different than if I logged in at the library and totally left my password right in there, right? And someone reads it back to me, and I go, oh my goodness, how did you hack me? How did you find my password, right? But so they obviously panicked, right?
Yeah, because I also stupidly alluded that I like knew Don Druckenmiller's password too. I just picked Don Druckenmiller because like he was an important guy. And the thing is, like, I think giving myself empathy in that moment, like, what I was trying to do, the information that I did have was about the Brethren overall. It was because I was on Wikipedia and I had read the articles and I had watched some of the early press. That was what I was trying to convey. Anyway, I got carried away. So yeah, he turned those Skype logs over. I'm not exactly sure if he turned them over or they were already monitoring his Skype. I know that they were monitoring, so I'm not exactly sure how that happened. Long story short, that afternoon, I think it was, I have the notes somewhere. It was April 3rd. That same afternoon, or same evening rather, my dad gets a call from the two priests saying, hey, we're coming over. We want to speak about Trent. And instantly I knew right away because my dad came up to my room and was like, what's going on? And keep in mind, I had been a pretty not straight A, but, metaphorically straight A person. Like I had kept all of my, you know, cell phone use, having my separate computer. I kept that all under wraps. I wasn't really like this outwardly rebellious kid. So I think a lot of people just thought I was a pretty good kid, including my parents. And so my dad was like very caught off guard, like, oh my God, he's getting a priestly visit and like, what's going on? So he was very confused. And I remember just like trying to calm him down because I was like, this poor guy's going to freak out because like a lot of stuff's going to come out that I have doubts and that now he's going to hear this hacking thing. I'm like, shit, like I have to because I really, and still to this day, I really feel for my dad. I think his heart's in the right place.
Well, they tried standing up for you a little bit in that priestly visit. They did. I mean, they both, especially your dad tried to have your back at one point in that priestly visit. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. And I'll get into it a little bit later. I mean, he's still to this day been going on a crusade trying to right that wrong with me and trying to get them accountable and in trouble because he thinks that was the giant transgression that caused me to leave, which is not like entirely untrue. It was pivotal. So yeah, anyway, they get these Skype logs. They call my dad. They say they're coming over for a priestly visit. They say that they're bringing 2 additional people in on the phone. So yeah, they knock on the door. They come to the house. I immediately think, well, shit, I have to record this because I knew at that point, I think they'd said something on the phone to my dad about hacking. I'm not sure. Or it's just something about a very serious allegation. So my thought was, okay, if you guys are going to treat this as some sort of legal battle, then I'm going to treat it as a legal battle and I'm going to protect myself much in the same way. And I knew pretty quickly that this was not going to be like a normal priestly visit because they were trying to use like legal language. And I thought, okay, like if you go legal, I like, you need evidence, you need recording. I know I didn't do anything wrong. So like if something ever happens, God, what if this goes to trial? Like my mind was going all over the place. It's like, oh my God, like what if the cops get this? Like I need to protect myself. So yeah, that's what it stemmed from. And I quickly Googled, like, am I in a one-party state? Like, can I record in Maryland? I think you can actually record, but either way, I was like, I'm going to tell them I'm recording so this can still be admissible if I need it as evidence. Like, I'll try to think through as quickly as I could. Yeah, it's like went into self-preservation mode, basically, because I was really scared.
And the recording is so important to do in there right now. Like it is, whether it's just for your own source to reflect on. I've tell so many insiders, record. Even when you sit back and listen to a priestly visit, even if you don't give it to anybody and it's just for your own good, when you sit back and listen to a priestly visit, you're able to pinpoint exactly where they're getting you, right? How they feed your fear, how they get into your mind. It's super important when you're in a cult to be able to reflect and be able to see where you lose your own agency. And so that record and letting them know, the stuff that Mick and Rod said to you in that priestly visit, while they knew they were being recorded, was insane. Like that for me was I had a hard time understanding, like they're so arrogant in their ignorance to the fact of who they are. Like their arrogance just wipes out any sense of reason of like, maybe I shouldn't say that while I'm being recorded. Like, how did you when you were being called the names that you were being called, how did you navigate that? Like, my stomach would have turned upside down, inside out when someone's calling me a stupid, naive idiot over and over and that you're just dumb. You're dumb. You're dumb. Like, How did you handle walking through that while that was coming at you? And how did you keep your mind somewhat coherent to be able to not surrender to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I sort of prepped myself with a mental framework a little bit, which was I promised myself, listen, a couple things. I have to stay calm. Like nothing good happens when you're in a you know in a frenzy. And I know that sounds generic. So if I go a level deeper, I kept reminding myself, I was like, I know this is a shakedown. I know that I didn't do anything wrong. I knew the truth. So I'm like, you guys are coming at me in this aggressive way, not because you're in a position of power, because you're trying to get something. So you have to like remember what the power dynamic is. Yes, I was a young kid, and in a lot of ways, they were much more powerful than me, but I realized that they wanted information from me. That put me in a power position. Yeah. So I knew that I didn't have to tell them how I did this. I didn't have to tell them specifics because I didn't know what they were going to do with it. So I knew it was a shakedown. And I think at that point I was nowhere near deprogrammed, but I was at least deprogrammed enough to know that they run on fear. And you guys have, of course, talked about it a million times, but fear equals control. And the second that they can see it on your face and kind of see you responding to it, that's when they own you. And I was terrified inside. I think I even told them I was terrified. I really was scared, but I knew that like that shame was all manufactured, right? If they truly were messengers from God's chosen person, they wouldn't be coming and screaming at a kid like that and saying those things. And I knew it. Yep. So if anything, like I think it actually hurt them. If they had come in calm and serious and kind of very businesslike and didn't do the name calling, I think I actually would have been much more scared and kind of given them a lot more information than I did and kind of crumbled quicker. But when I saw them come in like that and you could hear the whiskey glasses clinking in the back, I'm like, these guys are a joke. Like, they're not smart. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know anything about technology because they can't and because they're ignorant and haven't been allowed to. And yeah, I just knew that like the doubt that I was feeling, I knew that that wasn't corruption. I trusted myself. I was like, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm going to allow myself to explore these things, to question things, to find information, to get answers. Yeah, it's a bet on yourself, and you have to bet that, again, that you're not doing anything wrong. Because I know that those like pangs of guilt, like I know what that feels like to even entertain a thought and say, well, like, yeah, what if I should leave, or what if what if the Brethren are called? All these things, like every time I would think about them, they would give me a panic attack. But I would push through that and say, well, listen, like information can't hurt you to know information. Then I can make an objective decision. Maybe I come out of all this. Like I allowed myself the option to think, well, maybe they are right. Like maybe, but I need information.
Yeah.
I just want to say like about that priestly visit, basically interrogation, is I've seen a lot of what we called in the military jackings. Okay, so that's when you might have 2 or 3 instructors screaming at you about something you did wrong, and you did something wrong, and they would jack you up, and they'd be like, "Okay, Admiral, because you didn't do your buttons properly on your shirt, now everybody's going to do push-ups. Great job, Admiral," and you feel like an idiot, and everybody gets disciplined. But it was never personal, right? The most jackings, it was never, you are a piece of shit human. You're going to burn. We're going to kick you out of the military. You're never going to have a job. It was never like that. And so what I'm basically saying is I've seen people get screamed at and torn apart and told they made terrible mistakes, but I've never seen it like what they did to you, Trent, like how it was a personal attack and these ridiculous threats and burning in hell and all this shit. And I'm like, wow, like they're such pieces of crap. It disgusted me. And I've seen people get yelled at, for much different reasons, obviously. But, and just hearing that though was disgusting.
For me, it was just a huge piece of confirmation, like seeing how they acted, seeing how they came in. Because again, at that point, I hadn't had that much experience with kind of priestly visits or sort of getting in trouble, getting interrogated. Although I will say, I'll go on a quick tangent and say, I did have like a batch of those when I was 16 that were one-on-one. They're a lot less intense. I think they're a lot more perverse though, because they sat me down. I mean, I'm a minor, and they sat me down and they wanted written descriptions and details of things that I'd seen, things that I'd watched, places I'd touched. And I think that, quite frankly, is disgusting. I think some of these men behind closed doors, I think they're getting off to it. Why else would they want to know
Exactly.
what a 16-year-old is doing? I think it's disgusting. I think it's perverse. So I had some experience with it, but that was much more, they were acting like they were my friend. And it was a different set of priests, but it was like, oh, we just want to help you as our brother and just write it all out. And but in great detail, especially the stuff you watched. Make sure you really get the detail on that.
Yeah.
But it was very sort of, we're your friend. And that's how they got me, because I think I'm a pretty empathetic person. And in a lot of ways, I think I did believe that they wanted the best for me. But in this situation, when they rolled in and they're like, we're going to throw you in jail, and you're like, you're a stupid idiot. I'm like, this isn't going to work. Like, clearly, you guys are like, it was confirmation. Everything I had been wondering up until that point, it was complete confirmation. I'm like, these are two senior guys. They're saying that they represent the UBT, and they're acting like complete, like, deranged assholes. That's all I need to know. These are not correspondents of, God's chosen man on earth.
You made a super interesting point, Trent, and I just realized it, because when I was in too, when they came to me about anything sexual, okay, it was so creepy and weird. Soft toned voices, wanting you to write it out, great description. Where did you touch her? Who touched who first? Right. And again, this was when I was 16 and I'd made out with a girl. Like, come on. And yet when they came to me about answering a journalist's call about the Brethren School, they come with fucking guns blazing, screaming, yelling, how dare you say things against, are you trying to upset Mr. Hales? Like, you know what I mean? So isn't that interesting how when it's anything to do with the institution or something, they come guns blazing, don't you dare fucking say anything bad. When it's sexual, they do this fucking weird friend routine. And mine was my grandpa, Dave Admiral, asking me the details of how I made out with this girl. And then he would send it to that Kirkpatrick guy, who's dead now. Was it John Kirkpatrick? No. Roger Kirkpatrick.
Roger.
And Roger would come back to my grandpa David, and my grandpa would be like, no, we need more detail. Right? But I just found that really interesting, right? And like how they came at you,
and it's
Trent.
still ongoing. I've had so many emails lately on the priestly visits are insane in there right now. And it makes me so sad because, I mean, we've even called this shit out on podcasts before and they're still doing it. Same thing. Give me the details, do all the writing down. And then they're never satisfied. But I think, I want to just go back to what you were saying earlier, Trent, that I think what I hear you're saying is that when these priests are coming at you, the way that they're coming at people right now is to remain calm. And it's almost like keeping a word in your mind of always that you can return to, that's kind of sitting there that says, no, let them be the fool. You are the one that is in control here. You don't need to give them any information. And I don't even care if you've done stuff. This is a free world. As long as you're not harming somebody, you're allowed to do stuff. And if you don't want to reveal it to priests, lie. I'm literally telling you to lie. It's none of their business. It's literally none of their business. Obviously, you can't go to them and say it's none of your business. So deny it, right? You're not going to go to hell for denying someone intruding in on your personal life and your privacy. That is a cult. And I was just say, there are a lot of insiders there that do those cult tests now since we've started the Get a Life podcast. I mean, they know that they're there. We've done podcasts on them. And so they have done them. But prior to the internet, no, we would have never heard of someone like Trent going and, on dial-up internet doing all these tests of, am I in a cult? You are in a cult. It isn't as easy to exit the cult. After that all went down, How did you pick yourself up? And like, what happened after those priests walked out of that door?
So, yeah, what happened after was, I mean, directly after, my dad, because this was the first time he had heard, and you can hear him in the recording, he was trying to protect me. And yeah, I just wanted to at least say that and acknowledge that. Like, I could tell he wanted to stand up for me, even though he didn't in a lot of ways. He had always been this sort of guy, even way back when, to stick his neck out and sort of stand up for what he believed was right, and got in trouble for it and got beat down by the church. So he sort of had that air of protecting me while they were there. When they left, he was like, what's going, like, it was basically just like, what's going on? Really upset with me and everything. And I just like kept trying to calm him down, because I felt bad. I could like, he was freaking out, and I was just trying to calm him down. I'm like, yes, I've had doubts. Like, no, it's not what they're saying. No, I didn't hack anybody. And he just kept saying, like, give them what they need, like, give them what they want, give them the confession. I'm trying to remember the details. I think that I did sit down either that night or the next morning and write out something very, very simple and say, no, I didn't hack the UBT. I didn't get any illicit access to any servers, signed and dated. I think I gave him something like that. It was not a confession. It was the opposite. It was basically like, what did they keep asking? It was like a statement of fact. They kept trying to use this like legal term
An
on me. They're like,
affidavit
we
or
need
a
written
statement.
statement.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, sure. Like I'll write a statement for you.
So you did go ahead with the statement.
Yeah, but it was the opposite of what they wanted. Like they wanted to know how I had done it, things I had done.
They wanted a confession. You wrote a statement of facts, and the fact was you didn't do anything.
Exactly. Because the way they left it was basically like, they still didn't believe me that I hadn't hacked anything, but I wasn't going to like make stuff up. So yeah, I wrote that. I sent that. I think it was the same evening or the next day. And it's unfortunate. It's not a very dramatic or interesting story, because after that, they pretty much left me alone. Because what are they going to do? Like, I think at that point they realized, yeah, there's not much more that you can do with that. They tried. So I think people need to realize, like, yeah, standing up to them, but being calm. And again, as long as you can stay outwardly calm, it will rile them and you'll see their true colors.
Yeah.
And in seeing their true colors, then you're going to realize who they actually are. And then you're going to have more kind of inner confidence and strength to realize, wait, like I'm not the crazy one. So yeah, I would say use that as a tactic. Be calm, withhold information. Absolutely. If you feel like you need to lie to protect yourself, absolutely. I think morality is way too blurry and gray to sit there and say lying is always bad. I can think of a million instances where if you're protecting yourself or your safety, you lie. Don't tell them. Withhold information. Be calm. Get them a little bit riled up. Get them stirred up. And you realize, well, wait, well, that's not very godly of you. And it will prove your own thesis true through evidence.
I think it's important to understand the environment you're in. I don't need to lie out here. I can be my full authentic self and deliver my truth 24/7 because I'm not stuck in a cult. Nobody is coming after me. I have nothing to hide. I have people all the time, especially in Maple Creek. They're like, oh my goodness, like Cheryl's recording, Curtis is recording. It's like, we don't want to talk to you. And I'm like, anybody can come in my house. You can record me 24/7. I do not care if someone comes into the house and secretly records me. I have nothing to hide. But you have to know your environment.
Yes.
When you're in a cult and they're threatening you financially, family-wise, job-wise, everything, morally, yes, there are circumstances, again, where Trent's just saying morals are blurred, that line is blurred. This is one of those instances when you have to do what you need to do in order to preserve yourself in the circumstance that you're in. If it wasn't a cult, you wouldn't have to do this.
No.
If it wasn't a cult, you'd be able to stand up to these people. And honestly, the priest wouldn't even be coming to you and asking you the questions of, did you do this? Did you do that? We have reports of this. We have reports of that. That in a mainstream Christian church, you do not have control like that. The only way you have control like that is when you're in a cult. So as much as the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church are trying to preserve their image and say that they're not a cult, my inbox And everybody else's inbox that are on the front line fighting this fight have a different story to tell, along with our own personal experiences. When you watch podcast 110 and listen to this audio, those priests, and not even just Mick and Rod, but your other two local priests, what were their names?
It was Greg Baldwin. Was it Greg Baldwin? Yeah, it was Greg Baldwin and I think it was Randy Thomas.
Yes, Randy Thomas. That's who it was. Yeah. Like, even you'll see the dynamics of the way that priests work. So it's good cop, bad cop. And Trent's audio was a perfect example of good cop, bad cop. It's all a game. It's all a play of these two monsters coming at Trent, and then these other two that are trying to, salvage the remnants and hug and console and offer Trent this deep empathy. So both containers, top and bottom, get used. And that happens in priestly visits where you have these dynamics that come on. I experienced it in Maple Creek. And it really plays with your mind. And so just coming back to what Trent was saying, when you wake up and every night before you go to bed, practice on honing in on your own sense of self, sense of I am in control of my own mind, my own body, my own emotions, my own spirituality, whatever that may be for you. Practice what that feels like viscerally. Practice what it feels like in your body so that when you get caught and a priest just shows up on your doorstep, which happened so many times through the pet ban, people were caught off guard. You have that resource. These are things that you learn in therapy. So a lot of you don't have this access, but these are things that I have learned in therapy for years. Is when you first wake up in the morning and when you first go to bed at night, you gain control of who you are. And also, you could have something on your phone that goes off, say at 2 p.m., and it goes off and it says, how are you feeling right now? Bring yourself back to you. Because the church keeps you so busy, because the church keeps you in such a fearful mode, that when fear is the only emotion you're feeling, you forget to hone in on how you feel. And when you own your own feelings, whether that is A to Z, we are free human beings, and a human being has an emotional body to experience and feel every single one of them. When you start feeling and having your brain create a pathway that says, I am feeling anger, and it's okay for me to feel anger. I am feeling sadness. It's okay for me to feel sadness. I am feeling guilt. It is okay for me to feel guilt. When you own your own emotion, when a priestly visit comes along and they're throwing this stuff at you because you've already come to terms and you know what it feels like in your body, they can't own it. They can't throw power over top of you. Feel what fear looks like. Feel it in your body. What does it feel like? Feel it, sit with it, and you hold it. That is a natural, emotional response to an experience you're having, but you own it so somebody else can't. I hope that makes sense to everybody. I mean, these are just things that I've had to learn throughout therapy to be able to stand on my own 2 feet from what I've gone through. Because what I went through, I was from a very young age. I never had any agency. I was never able to understand my own emotional body and what that felt like. I've had to learn it on such a steep level since I've started going into this therapy on what happened to me when I was sexually trafficked, what happened to me when I was sent out to everybody. So, and it's the same thing that you guys are all inside there experiencing. It still is all the same responses viscerally that are going on inside your body that is telling you that you can't own your thoughts, that you can't own your emotions. And if you practice morning and night and have something on your phone go off that stops you dead in your tracks, that says, how am I feeling? And then own it. Take 3 minutes. That's all you need, you guys, is 3 minutes in the morning, 3 minutes in the afternoon, and 3 minutes in the evening. And you will start reprogramming what this cult has indoctrinated you to feel.
And basic self-awareness and being
It is. Yeah.
being in touch with your reality so that you don't get too invested in your thoughts. I remember one of my old therapists said it's good to sometimes view your thoughts like you're sitting on the side of a highway, and all the thoughts are vehicles passing by, and some of them are really cool, like maybe a red Corvette is coming by, but you don't necessarily want to run out into traffic and jump into it, right? You're gonna get too involved and too hurt. So you watch your thoughts, right? But you said some really interesting things there, Cheryl, about well, the fear, and about, I wanted to talk a little bit too about lying, right? I too feel that I don't need to lie in my life at all. We've talked in the past on this podcast a lot about how the Brethren like to hire private investigators, and I welcome them to follow me. Please learn about my life. Maybe you can give me some tips on my fitness routine and things like that, right? Like if you want to come in, honestly, I need help. I'm trying to learn to barbecue better right now, so you could maybe help me with barbecuing. And honestly, I feel that I have really good things to share. So my life is open. I don't need to lie. But there are certain circumstances. For instance, when I was getting ready to deploy to Iraq, we learned that, guess what? If you were captured and they asked you, are you planning to escape? What do you think I would say? Would I say, yes, yes, Mr. ISIS man, I am planning to escape. I'm just trying to pick my lock right here. Thanks for asking. No, absolutely not. Praise Muhammad or whatever. I would, whatever I needed to do. Of course, I would say, no, I love being here. I want to join. So what I'm saying is, those members inside the Brethren right now, if you are planning or even thinking about leaving, entertaining it, and the priests come to you, we've heard this, you're having doubts, you can lie. You can just be like,
Yeah.
oh, I love Mr. Hales. He's great. He's super handsome and sexy and, super fit. But, that's a whole nother thing I wanted to get into about how people are in love with a guy, but apparently that's okay, right? Like, I don't know why I'm getting sidetracked here, ADHD, but I'm married now, and I'm just saying, like, if my wife was just like, had pictures of another dude up all over the house that was like really, oh, I love Bruce Hales and stuff, it would probably bother me a little bit, right? I'm just saying, it's a little weird that they all love Bruce Hales. But the point is, lie to your priests if you need to get out of shit. Like if you're trying to escape, this isn't a position where you are in the safest place, right? You're wanting to change your life and get out of something. You do not have to give the priests information. Okay, rant over.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing I would add to that as well is, as much as you can, mistake that I made that I would go back and change is, don't reason with them. You might feel suckered into it because you have nobody else to talk to, because they're there. They're again, like the nice guy routine. Maybe they're trying to sound empathetic, like they care about you, but it is a trap to reason with them. It doesn't matter what you say or what evidence you present. You could have printed out photographs of Bruce Hales, whatever, doing something horrible. It doesn't matter. You cannot reason with them. And every ounce of energy, every conversation I had, whether it was with my dad or a priest, trying to reason and share your doubts and be vulnerable was just a complete waste of time, because you were empathetic creatures. You want to feel heard and seen and share your frustrations and say, well, I'm seeing these things. For me, I didn't come out and just say, oh my God, I'm in a cult, like this whole thing's a farce, because I actually wasn't deprogrammed enough at that time. But I was picking out little things and saying, well, I don't agree with this. This doesn't seem very Christian. Or again, like you were saying, Lane, like the pictures in the house. And like we spend probably 90% of our time talking about a guy on earth and not the guy we're supposedly supposed to be worshiping. The math is not mathing on that. Yeah, don't, as much as you can, just fight the urge and the human response to want to like kind of share and reason. And it sucks because these should be your community that you feel safe expressing doubts and concerns and being vulnerable. But unfortunately, you kind of have to do the opposite. It's very much an internal battle. And if that's why it's so valuable, if you can get somebody on the outside, a neutral third party, and if somebody in the Brethren who's being a little bit friendly to the cause is not a neutral third party, because you don't know where they stand. They could report you, they could flip, they could be just playing nice guy to get information. It's sad, but you can't trust anybody in there to share these things with. You need a true, neutral, unbiased third party, a friend, a therapist out here, something, because they will just pull you into their traps, and they're trained. They have an answer on every single thing, and they know exactly what emotional strings to pull. And suddenly, even if you didn't want to, you feel yourself like siding with them again. So yeah, it's a dangerous trap.
And that's why I think our inbox gets so full, is because people are starting to find their neutral third party. So, I mean, reach out to the ex-members. We're not evil. I don't convince people to leave. I'm just there to support and hold space. I'm there to be a sounding board. And there is a group on Facebook that you can join. You've got to go through a lengthy process of getting into it, of insiders. It is an insiders group that there are other insiders in there with moderators from people who are on outside to help people get that neutral third party advice. But just know, like, you can reach out to ex-members to help yourself vent and get off your chest. Sometimes just, sign up to a anonymous Proton email. That's what most of the insiders reach out to us on, and just get it out. 9 times out of 10, you're going to feel so much better just typing it out, getting it off your chest, what you weren't able to say to either your parents, to your family, or to the priests that are coming at you. We just want to be heard. And when you get it out, you're able to walk away from the situation without engaging the way that the priests are trying to get you to engage.
And
Yeah.
I want to encourage like those insiders too. Like, let me give an example of maybe what it would be like to go to a therapist. Okay, like an outsider, non-brethren, and they're not going to tell you what to do, or they shouldn't, what to do with your life or how to make the best choices. What they're going to do is ask you questions, and you're going to have to figure it out yourself. For example, they're going to ask you, oh, so how's your life been? Oh, I just went to a 3-day meeting, church meeting, and it was, well, how did it make you feel? Oh, I felt very stressed. It was super stressful. I'm thinking about leaving, and I don't know. I'm having questions. I'm having doubts. Oh, okay. Well, what else did you? Oh, I went for a walk in the woods yesterday evening. How did that make you feel? Really great, actually. Okay, so maybe do more of the walking in the woods and less of the things that stress you out. Oh, but I don't know if I can. Well, I'll get in trouble. Oh, why would you get in trouble? Well, because if I don't attend, then I get in trouble. Okay, that doesn't sound like a great, does that stress you out? Right? So that's going to lead to more questions. And you're going to be sitting there and realize that I do want to do more of the things that make me less stressed and less of the things that make me more panicky. And how many times have you had a priestly visit and felt like you just had a walk in the woods after? Did you feel warm and fuzzy after that conversation, or that you just felt that you unloaded and that they just accepted you for who you were and never told you what to do and just asked you questions like, how you been sleeping? Or tell me how you feel? Or was it telling you what to do, how wrong you've been? That's the difference between compassion, empathy, and finding, like that they're saying, that third party, that person that's that listening ear that isn't telling you everything that you need to do. They're just asking you questions. Are you okay? Are you happy? What changes do you want to make? That's the kind of person that you're looking for that could help you gather the
And
strength
that's
to
what
lead.
those priests are supposed to be doing. Those priests
Exactly.
are supposed to, like, pastoral care. That's what that is. They're meant to bring you back to a state of regulation, or feeling grounded and feeling whole and nurtured and seen and heard. Priests are not supposed to be what you heard in podcast, What 10, and what I'm getting in my inbox right now. So coming back to you, Trent. So they dropped everything after that priestly visit. How long did it take you from that priestly visit then to get actually out of the cult?
That's a good question. I think it was a couple months. Might have been a little shorter than that. It might have been a few weeks, but it was not like a year. And
Okay.
it was more than like the next day. I
And how
think
did
it was
you
a
do
couple
it? How
months.
did you plan it?
So at that point, I realized, so yeah, the priestly visit itself, the interrogation, whatever you want to call it, that was pivotal. I was like, okay, this really is bullshit. They wouldn't have reacted that way because they acted guilty. They're like, what did you see? What did you see? They really wanted to know what I saw and how I did it. So it's like, okay, that's suspicious. So that was enough confirmation that at that point I was like, okay, I really need to take this seriously and formulate a plan for leaving. Because before, I didn't really have a plan. It was just sort of, I know this now that I'm trapped in this thing, but I don't really know what to do. So that's when I really started formulating a plan. I was already talking to somebody on the outside at that point and ramped that up. And I won't get crazy far in detail on that, but long story short, thank God I was able to have somebody who offered me a place to live. Yeah, a place to stay, a home with no strings attached. And she was like, listen, you can stay here as long as you want. I've never heard of a situation like this in my life. This is insane. I'm here to help. And at the same time, I'll also credit her with, she was like, at some point, you got to make a decision. Like, you can't be trapped in this forever. So, yeah, I was working for my dad at the time. I thought I was going to be kind of like fired immediately. I didn't really know what they were going to do, like employment wise. I was barely making any money anyway, so it didn't really matter.
But you stayed on. So you went, even after you left, you stayed on working for your dad.
Yeah. So if I could tell the leaving story.
Yeah.
So yeah, I planned it out for, I think it was a couple months. I did that in total secrecy. I really didn't want anybody to know. So again, going back to the, like, you don't want to reason with people. The second you start giving people inklings of this, the system is designed to protect itself. It's masked as protecting you, but it's really protecting itself.
Yeah.
So I did it in total secrecy. I even went, so I left on a Monday, I went that Sunday. I did the full meetings. I did the Lord's Supper. I did the main one in the day. It's been 10 years. I'm literally forgetting the names of them now.
The reading.
And then the
Yeah,
last
you went to church
preaching,
all day.
the reading.
Yeah.
And then the last preaching, I did the whole thing. And then Monday morning before work, I had this like little plastic hamper and I just threw in there what I could. So I just threw in some clothes. I think I may have, like, there may have been some like pictures and stuff. And I planned it out with this person that I was going to stay with. I was like, I don't know how long I'll need to stay here. I really don't have much information other than I'm escaping this thing. Can you pick me up on the side of the road? I'm going to have a white hamper. So yeah, I packed that in the back of the car. We drove to work. I drove to work with my dad and brother, typed up a letter. One of the things about me is I just hate being misunderstood. So I wrote out this letter about like what my reasoning was and things like this. I printed it out. I handed it to my dad after the end of work. I read it out to him. And I was basically like, you're going to have a bunch of questions, but what I need is space. Like, I have a place to go. I'll be safe. And then I went into the car and grabbed my hamper and I walked. It was a couple blocks towards the White House with my little basket, and I got picked up. And that was the last day I ever, that was my leaving. That was the last day I lived with the Brethren, essentially. I did still come back to work. So I was working for my dad in DC. And so I wasn't even getting paid because the business was doing shit at the time. I was so dedicated that I would take like this bus an hour and a half in to still come to work because I wanted to prove that. Yeah, I just wanted to prove that like this is purely, I don't know what I was trying to do in that, but I was basically just trying to prove that it was like a disagreement on lifestyle, but like I was still very much trying to keep myself in the business, in the family. I was like asking how they were doing and wanting pictures.
You could see the difference between work, personal life, and the church, right? I think that's what you mean there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
yeah,
you know what I mean? You could see, hey, like I've made the change. I no longer want to attend church. I don't want priestly visits, but you still wanted a connection with your dad, your family, and you were still invested in their business so much. You cared so much that you were working for free and taking a bus. Like, that shows love, in my opinion.
100%. That's well said. I was trying to show them that they are. I remember I would keep saying. I even said to my dad, now I'm like, we have a difference of belief. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not this like alien evil person. We just have a different fundamental perspective, but they are different things. It'd be nice if you left, but it's fine if you want to believe in that stuff, but I'm still part of your family. Like, I just have a different perspective. I'm still going to show up to work. I still care about work. I still love everyone. So I was really trying to make that clear that this is not I'm just like trying to run away from everybody and abandon everyone. But the way they set it up, the stakes are that high because their businesses are involved with the church, and the family is the business, and the business is the church. Like, it's all this one mash. So you do end up kind of leaving everything. But I tried my best to be like, no, I'm still going to be a great employee. I'm going to show up early. I'm going to do my work. I wish I didn't. I wish I had something lined up and I just left, because it's really emotionally, I would not recommend it to somebody to come in every single day and put in work, and your dad and brother are there, like, doing everything they can to convince you that you're hurting your mom's health, and like every manipulation tactic you can think of. We're going to fly you down to Australia. You've learned to be a pilot. We're going to get you a plane. Like, just trying everything in the book that they could. Some of it was slightly effective, but I would say the cleaner the break you can have, the better you'll be.
Yeah. And do you still talk to them today? How long did you last working for them? And when did they make their clean break from you and draw a line in the sand?
So I actually ended up putting in my 2 weeks because I left, I got lucky. I updated my LinkedIn profile. I'll bounce around a little bit and actually say this. If you can hone a skill for the brethren company that you're working for, really try to dial in a real skill as much as you can and educate yourself on what's valuable out in the world. Because at that time, I had really been passionate about marketing. I liked running ads for my dad. Thank God I had done enough of that, even though I was like basically working for free. I cared about it. It was a passion. I sort of updated my LinkedIn to have all that on there. And I got a huge lucky break, because people ask me about this a lot. I got a huge lucky break and was recruited to a technology company. I put my 2 weeks notice in with my dad. I was like, I got a real job now. I got a job with a 401k and benefits and healthcare and dent. Like, what is this? And they give me a company shirt and a water bottle. Like, it was truly a miracle. And I got so incredibly lucky with that. And that was kind of the start of just piecing my life together and building. I threw myself into work because at that time, my relationship with my family was obviously, for the very most part, cut off. I think, again, I was lucky in a different way. My dad, I think, maintained and has maintained more contact with me. Hope he doesn't get in trouble for this. But then I think then other people have experienced. So he would still occasionally respond to messages, even though it was all centered around like trying to get you back. So anyway, the first year of leaving, I would say, was like onslaught of manipulation, outreach from people, basically just trying to get me back. It was like full bore in that first year. And the first year was definitely the toughest. I mean, I felt like a complete alien on earth. Everybody who leaves knows this. Like, you don't know how to operate a TV. You don't know how to like order at a restaurant properly. So the first year was very, very foreign, but I just threw myself into work. And thank God I had that one skill that I had developed that I was able to get a job. I just poured myself into that. And I think everything I've done since then has been with a slight chip on my shoulder to prove that you can do cool things. You can go cool places in life. You can pursue your hobbies. You can start a business. You can do all the things that you want to do and have success, even if it's defined on their terms, with not being in the brother. I was just determined to prove that like my life wasn't going to be a disaster after I left.
You know what? I look at that though as a positive. I really do. I think that is what launches us into working through the fears that we lived our lives in, is that I do think that little chip on our shoulder is what kind of keeps the fear in check of like, no, just do it. Like, just do it. Because you're so determined to prove the indoctrination that we've been told wrong, that it really does make us, you've got this tenacity and this willingness to just try anything, in a sense of, it's different. It's just, it comes across different. And I've sat in it when I was doing all my grief therapy. And I was like, you know what? It really is. It comes from this place of, but I have to prove what my brain has been told wrong in order to say that, no, I can do it. It really widens the door open for you. So to those people that are thinking of leaving or have just left and are quite, still navigating, it's not a bad thing to have a chip on your shoulder. It's not bitterness. It's not resentment. To me, I look at it as a positive of like, no, I've just got this thing that tells me all the time of like, prove yourself wrong, Cheryl. Go do it.
Totally agree. That's what, motivated me through my military career, was just that I have to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
And it worked out good because I loved it. But at the same time, it was like a motivation to just be like, oh no, they said I'd never make it. Oh, no way. I'm definitely going to make it. In fact, I'm going to make it and thrive at it. And that was what helped me. I mean, when I did basic training, everybody told me I'd never make it through. My grandparents told me you won't make it through. You can't listen to God. How could you listen to your instructors? I got top student and top athlete, and I mailed them a copy of both. Right? I was like,
That's amazing.
There you go. Fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That is awesome.
But yeah, you can use it as motivation. And to those inside that are listening and thinking of leaving, do use it as motivation. They're going to tell you, you're going to be under a bridge, you're going to go broke, no friends, everything's going to go horribly wrong. Not true. Not true. You're going to meet amazing people that will be more empathetic and more loving than you could ever imagine. And you're going to be happier than you could probably ever imagine inside the Brethren. It's just not true, because people always have fears about things they've never done.
Yeah.
I mean, we just got married in Mexico, my wife and I, and we had friends terrified. My goodness, no way, it's too scary down in Mexico. Oh, really? Have you been? You've never been? Yes. Terrifying when you've never done something. So, and to the insiders, face that fear. Face that fear.
Yeah.
I remember the terror and fear that I had in there from, everything from hell to being caught. But the best thing you can do is to face your fears. I mean, even everything as simple as a fear of heights, go off a high diving board. You'll get over it eventually.
Yeah. I have a sign in my kitchen that says, do it because they said you couldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I like that. I do have
there's lots of things I'm still afraid of. I mean, small talk in a group of people. Yeah, no, I'm in the bathroom. I'm like, no way. But yeah. Facing a lawsuit against the Peebs. Yeah, I'm like,
no problem.
I'll dive right in and be like, no, you don't get to. Yeah. So since you got out, so after you left, you got out, you kind of got through that first year. How did you, because you've done really well for yourself, Trent. Like, I mean, I watch you on social media and you have done really well. What would you say to the people who are still kind of in that first year? What would you say to them to help them look forward to what it is that they can build out of this newfound freedom that they fought so hard for?
So I would say by leaving, you're already doing the hardest thing, which is betting on yourself.
Yeah.
I would go so far as, I'm going to say something controversial and say that I actually don't think that a lot of people should leave. I think that, quite frankly, it's like letting zoo animals out who were domesticated and they have no idea how to. I think a lot of them, if you're not somebody who likes to bet on yourself and believe in yourself and kind of pursue your place in the world and your dreams, if you kind of like to live according to everybody else and just sort of flow along in the stream, I think you're going to have a really tough time. Listen, I hope everybody leaves and eventually I hope it dissolves. Yeah, it does take, I think, a certain personality and a certain tenacity, and it's not easy. So you will see things and encounter things and struggles that make you think, well, they're right. So everybody will face hardship in some way in their life. So you have to be very mentally strong to tell yourself, like, okay, this thing is going wrong. But that doesn't mean that like God's punishing me right now because I went off and did this. So you really have to have like the inner strength and belief to separate those things, even when things do go wrong, because you will face difficulty. You lost everything. You don't know how to live in the real world. It's going to be hard. So I don't want to undersell that. But at the same time, you have to believe in yourself and believe in, it sounds cheesy, but like believe in humanity. There are people out here who you will find, who you will encounter. And I will say from my own experience, I didn't know it at the time, but they were just massively pivotal. I don't consider myself a terribly religious person really at all. I think I've come in touch with my own form of spirituality. And I can say for certain there were people who came into my life. I have no other explanation for that. They were there to like help and support and guide. So you will find that. And yeah, it takes an inner belief. That all sounds a little bit cheesy. I would say on the practical side, yeah, find a skill that you can monetize and become the best at that thing and focus on excellence in that thing if you can, and pour your passion into that. Because I feel like there's probably so many, I think about this a lot. There's so much wasted potential in the Brethren. Like there's probably incredible artists and like the next doctor who's going to find the cure to some disease just based on statistics. And there's a lot of really, really smart people in the Brethren. Yeah, it's heartbreaking because like think of if you apply that potential to helping the world and moving it forward in science and in technology and math and art and all these things that make, the human experience wonderful. I don't know. That annoys me the most is that they're being pushed into, these women are being pushed into these secretary roles and these men are just glorified. The Brethren are just glorified salesmen. There's no real talent in engineering.
No.
And sales is great. And thankfully I've been able to bootstrap a career off of that. But like, I don't find it that special. I don't want to be looked at as the example. I like go do something cool or go like actually, make a difference in the world is what I would say.
Yeah. I talk to a lot of teenagers right now, like as young as 13, and some of them are they're so inspiring. And I think the mom heart in me, it's a good thing I live where there's no Brethren churches, because it would be so hard for me not to just go and rescue people and be like, I see so much potential in you. And I just wanted to place you over here and show you and feed you the knowledge that you're yearning for and let you see the potential in yourself. And I think that is the really sad part about this cult, is that the potential is always about these businesses and the money that they can make in them, versus looking at each individual and seeing the potential in each individual and their interests. I mean, these teenagers don't get to pursue their interests at all. And I think the biggest thing that frustrates me so much about OSG is the way they give this image to the outside world that they support all these things and show these awards. Yet those teenagers and those kids, especially when they email me, know wholeheartedly that they love this about science and they know that they would never be able to do anything with it. And I think that probably there's one particular email that comes to mind that was probably the most heart-wrenching email that I had to read and respond to. I mean, I'm not going to tell these teenagers to leave, but I do definitely get them to inquire and really get inside their mind and start questioning things. Because as long as you can question and stay curious about your environment versus staying solidified to your environment, then that can grow within the brain and eventually come out to be a Trent Waskey who is like asking all these questions when they're in a priestly visit. So I think, like, to the teenagers that watch all of our podcasts, is just stay curious, ask the whys, ask the hows, ask the questions, because questions lead to very monumental moments in your life that will show you where you are being led to. And I agree with Trent that same thing with when I left, there was so many predicaments that I could have got myself in that I know just the right people at the right moment came along, including my husband, who guided me through such tumultuous aftermaths of what I experienced. And there's a world waiting for you out here that have helping hands and wise words that can guide you into exactly, and you can do it at any time of your life. I mean, there's been many times that I've sat down and I'm like, I'm 51 years old, and what would have I done with my life had I not had the upbringing that I had? And it doesn't, just because I'm 51 doesn't mean that I can't do that. So I make sure that I'm always interjecting my own thoughts of that say, you have to do this. No, I can be 85 years old. And if I decide to go to, you know, I want to learn some new thing at the gym, I'm going to learn it. Right? Don't limit yourself. Your brain is one of the most miraculous things inside our body that when you get a hold of it and you move through indoctrination and you unpack it, there's such potential no matter how old you are. You can be an 80-year-old and go to college. Who says you can't? I think that's the beauty of leaving a cult and coming out very naive, because you always have this place in your brain that says, don't tell me I can't do something, because I can. Because we were so closed down that there's just this chip on our shoulder that says, hell yeah, I can. Absolutely, I can. If I want to start a petition and against the town of Maple Creek because they're doing something completely crazy, don't tell me I can't do it. I can, because it's a free world and I'm a free human being. And when I see injustice and when I have to read through hordes of messages and emails every fucking day, I'm going to fight for those people any way, shape, or form that I can. So just stay curious. Don't limit yourself. Just don't limit yourself. That's the beauty of reprogramming what you've been in, and you can do it while you're still in there. And I know many, many, many of you guys are. And I just want to go back to what Trent was saying. It is a hard transition. And it's really hard when you've been stuck in the one school global and haven't really had the chance to communicate and see what the outside world is. That it is hard, and brace yourself for it.
Yeah.
But also know that there's many, many people that are ready, willing, and have open arms to help you navigate it. But you must believe in yourself. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to believe in yourself.
Absolutely. And I would say that there's some ultimates or ultimate goals. So one would be a family. The ultimate goal would be to get out together as a family, right? If you own a business, get out with your business. Obviously, if you're younger and you work for a brethren business and you're planning on leaving, have a plan. Try and think of what you would like to do long term. One of the mistakes that I've seen over my, probably 18 years now that I've been out is people that sometimes leave because they want to try something, they've broken the rules, they've gotten in trouble, and they really are just rebelling. Sometimes that cannot last, because you can run into troubles or just life, just normal life things. But because we're programmed in there as kids that, if anything bad happens, it's God speaking to us, and it's these signs from above. No, you might have just gotten a flat tire. But because of that and not having a plan, you're more susceptible to their manipulation. You're more susceptible even to your own programming of I did something wrong, I should go back, right? So if a young person in there, look at school, look at different schools, look at different career paths that you could have. And one thing I did want to quickly throw in there, because I've been forgetting to do this sometimes, is I like to give out some book recommendations, because I love to read and listen to books. So this is one I just listened to. Has nothing to do really with religion or cults, but it has to do with escaping. And it's called Escape from Camp 14 by Blaine Harden. That's BLAINEHARDEN. Okay. And it's about a young boy that was born into a North Korean concentration camp, and he escaped and managed to move to America. And it's just an incredible story of resilience, escape, brainwashing, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, but at the same time inspirational. And a good part of the end of the book, it really shows how North Koreans survive after leaving. And you'd think, oh, life would just be amazing because everything is new and everything is just incredible on the outside for North Koreans having to escape. No, it's not that easy for them. Do you think it's easy for your mind just to comprehend these new things? No, they struggle. They're obviously happy to be out of North Korea and don't want to go back, but it's a really interesting story. It shows the inspiration, and it's inspiring to escape, but it also shows that there's a mental price that we pay for opening our minds in a way. All of a sudden we realize the pain and suffering of all our friends and family back in there. We now can understand what they can't. So anyway, that's just a really good recommendation I have for a book. For those of you who are readers or like to listen to books, I listen to it on Audible. But yeah, there is our families still in there, still struggling. And those are the things that we don't forget. We come out and we do succeed, and we have success stories like Trent, and it's amazing. I love that. We also got to remember that we have our family still in there, and I really hope that your dad, Trent, is listening. I remember your dad's name was Paul, right?
That's right.
Paul was super nice to me as a kid. I remember your family was really great when I was a young kid, and I hope he does listen to this, because Paul, if you're listening, you have an amazing son, and he's doing amazing. And so those inside listening, I hope you do feel some inspiration sometimes from these podcasts, because we're not suffering out here. Yes, sometimes we suffer in our memories, in our minds. That's where we all suffer, except for physically. And when I say suffer, it's because we feel empathy and pain for you inside. We know that you don't think the way we think. You don't have the freedom to have the thoughts that we can even have out here. So I don't want to say pity, but we feel empathy and stuff for you inside. But I hope that you take some encouragement from Trent's story today, and see that you can have a successful, happy life on the outside, and you can stand up to fear. Like, again, it's just another person, and they can't see your thoughts, even if they say they can. So have some strength to stand up to those priests if they come knocking.
I'd also love to show some at some point, because like 2 minutes before this started, I saved some of my favorite pictures. But I think have a vision and dream, because I asked my dad that shortly after I left. I was like, what is your dream? Like, I know you like country music. Would you ever want to go to a country music festival? Like, really genuinely try to have a dream, and then go out. And I used it as an anchor for myself of when I was questioning whether I would go back. I would just be like, okay, well, I had this concert at the end of the summer that I booked and paid for already. I have to do that, because that's like a bucket list item. And I had enough of those lined up. And then eventually I was like, wait, this can just be my life. So yeah, really dream about, like, what do you want to experience and feel and do and see and taste and travel to? There's just so much to do.
There's endless new things that you've probably never done before, right? And I'm speaking to the insider. Like, for instance, 18 years I've been out, just got a puppy. Just got a little 9-week-old puppy. My wife and I, oh my God, he is adorable. Absolutely love it. Never experienced what it was like to bring up a puppy. And it's such a fun, amazing experience. So there's so many things. I mean, scuba diving, one thing I'm trying in a couple of weeks. I'm going to try paragliding, right? That's going to be a new experience. There's so many things that you can try.
Start making a bucket list. Just start making a bucket list of things that you want to try. And would you be able to do those while you're in there, or do you have to leave in order to do them? Like, it's shoot for things that you would like to learn about educationally. It doesn't necessarily always have to be activities. It could be things that you want to learn about. I want to go back to just piggybacking off of Lane's book recommendations. There's a book called The Wild Edge of Sorrow. excellent, excellent book. I'll put a picture of it up here on the screen. I don't remember the author off by heart. But, and then another one that I think anybody who is trying to gain their own autonomy and struggles with anxiety and a lot of fear is, I'll put it up on the screen here again. I think it's called Healing the Vagus Nerve, and just learning and researching breathing exercises and exercises that all have to do with the nervous system, because that's really what gets hijacked when you go through trauma and when you go through so much indoctrination that is fearful. So it's, yeah, just research. Before we go on to the pictures that you want to show us, I know I'm going to be asked by the insiders of what was it that you started questioning, or what things were happening that made you start questioning if what you were in was a cult. Do you remember offhand by what any of those were?
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of them. I'll try to think of a few specific ones because it was, yeah, one would lead to another and then it would sort of
Yeah.
piece more of them together. A big one was alcohol. My grandfather was, I think, a pretty well-known alcoholic, and I grew up seeing that and grew up also, looking back a little bit, I think I realized even more, but even in the moment, just how prevalent it was and how pushed on you it was. That was the only sort of fun. That was something that I sort of took issue with. I remember telling my dad about it, like, why is it so common? Why is everybody drinking so much? The other thing was just kind of the aura of Bruce Hales in general compared to the teachings, right? So it was very much, the picture in the house. So, like, if you go to somebody's house, for a break and they had just, been in Sydney recently, that was like everything that people wanted to talk about was proximity to him, clinging on to every word he said. To me, it didn't make a whole lot of sense that, a messenger, if this person is truly God's messenger, then, why are they going to be worshiped like that? They should just be another person. I am not a scholar of the Bible, unfortunately, so I can't go line by line and verse by verse, but that's not how Jesus acted, or the stories of Jesus that they talked about. He wasn't flying around in his private jet. I would always bring that up to my dad. I was like, why does he need a jet? Why does he need secure? Nobody's after him. Nobody cares about him in the real world at all. He doesn't why does he need these things? But we're told we can't do these things. So I would pick up on discrepancies, or I would hear stories of like the Hales boys, renting yachts, and like doing whatever they wanted to, or going to restaurants. Yeah, just discrepancies in the standard. Like, okay, why can they do that and we can't? So I would just pick up on more and more of those things. I'm sure there's many, many more that I'm not thinking of right now that probably bothered me more in the moment.
And did you ever question the focus on money ever?
Yeah.
Or was it
And
as much in your locality?
it was, I would say we were definitely one of the money focused localities. I think there was a turning point where it became even more so, especially after people moved in. I think there was a general ramping up point in the Brethren overall where it very much became image based. There's like what car you drive and how big your house was and that sort of thing. I think they found like the only kind of loophole for self actualization because they're not allowed to really express themselves in any way. So it's like, okay, well, who can have the biggest house? Like, who can have the
Yeah.
most money? Who can have the biggest business? I think that was their only way to like signal status, signal, doing something in the world. So I think that stemmed from the top because that's clearly what
There's really no
Bruce
individualism,
architected.
right? Like you can't get a whiter shirt on Sunday, so they really
Yeah.
really the only way to express themselves, like you're saying, is like with their houses, their cars, and their businesses.
Yeah.
What about the
Gonna say something
election
else, but
stuff? Like, were you ever a part of any of the big USA election campaigns?
that actually was that was something else that I questioned. And I regret saying, oh, I feel like I have a lot of regrets, but at the time, it was a bit an eye when Trump was running for president in 2016. So this was a year before I left, that we would kind of go around. We were like, I guess, a little bit known to be rebellious in that way and be like, well, no, what he's saying is pretty cool. And like, whatever. It was at that time they hated Trump. And so
But wait, the Brethren
we would
hated
go
Trump
around.
in 2016?
Yeah, they were praying for Hillary to get in.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. We had
Okay.
prayer meetings for Hillary.
I did
And
not know.
so what happened is we would go around saying these things and we sort of branded ourselves as these Trump supporters, me and my cousin and a couple other people. And like we would sort of get into it at breaks and debate about it. Because at this point, my understanding is that Bruce hadn't come out and kind of shared his, what side of the fence he's on. And then at some point, prayer meetings started to happen for Hillary. And that really irked us. So it was used as a rebellious thing. Not I regret ever like having any positive affiliation with Trump.
Whatever. But that's super interesting. So, but was there other Brethren members that supported him kind of against the grain back then?
Yeah, there was. And that was like a source of intrigue for me because I'm like, there's clearly not like a standard issue opinion quite yet. And there's like now this diversity of opinion. And like we're kind of saying one thing and riling people up. And then all of a sudden it comes out that we have to have the prayer meetings for Hillary. So I guess that's the official stance. So yeah, it was very much a debate internally at some point. And now my understanding is that they flipped and that at some point he said that God worked in him and now he's my understanding is he's pro-Trump or he's a supporter of the administration, something like that.
So the Lord did one of those 180-degree turns.
Yeah, the old 180. And I was just like this just doesn't make any sense. And I don't know, I just pick up on discrepancies like that. You're told one thing and you see different actions. Like trust your gut. If you sense something's off or it's irking you or it feels like an injustice, it's probably because it is. And the way that you're made to feel, this one's a little more intangible, but I guess it's the last one, is just the class system and the way that you're made to feel when you're around like the important people. There's no like teaching in the Bible about this hierarchy, but you know where you are in the hierarchy. Like, if you're a front row person, where you stand, who's, what connections you have, what family you're part of. And I think it's mostly based around money now, but you know your place, even if because my dad said, well, there's no hierarchy. I'm like,
Right, they say it on their
bullshit.
website, they say it in their articles that there's no hierarchy, but yet it comes. I want to actually read out, and I'm going to read out an email that I got from a insider here. Hello, Cheryl. Hope you're okay. I am doing okay, just. Reason for writing is I am really concerned about the trajectory of the PBCC. We have just had the UMs. Wow, what an extravaganza event that was. The money spent on accommodation, food, drinks, travel, and security is just insane. Those invited were given an experience that was second to none. All attendees were treated to the king's delicate food, exactly what Daniel in the Bible refused. The food costs are reported to have cost between $4 and $6 million. The security was completely over the top. There were guard dogs, armed guards, technology scanners, SWAT teams, literally USA presidential security for a man 99% of the world know nothing about. The only way to get to speak to the Mog, or man of God, was to have an appointment, something almost impossible to get. There were the usual roadblockers on the end of every row of seats, and only a very small team of elite members were allowed to be within hearing distance of the Mog. The specially selected few even had to sign NDAs before being allowed to be on this team. The lack of trust and the enormous amount of paranoia actually tells its own story and raises its own question. What are you hiding, Bruce, Gareth, Dean, and Charles? As for the whole occasion, the brothers who have come back from this time have really drunk the Kool-Aid. The amount of awe and worship being directed back to our beloved brother and his sons is sickening. The Mog strategy is very cunning. Give them an experience. 2, love bomb them. 3, make them feel chosen special. 4, build commitment by asking for more loyalty. 5, increase control by encouraging dependence on the fellowship and discourage outside influence. This is called the foot in the door strategy. So far, all of our meetings and public prayers have centered on our beloved brother and all he is doing for the testimony. So yes, same shit, different day. To finish off, I thought I would share a quote from a pastor I saw online. I think it's quite apropos at a time like this. The church is a hospital for sinners, not a country club for saints. What a country club the PBCC has become. All the best, me. And I want to read out another insider's email on how they handle their priestly visits. So just you have various options on how to deal with them. Cheryl, just following on from our conversation on Monday evening, I was saying that one of the priests on my case is the local leader. There's things in this email that I've blacked out that I can't read out because it would give away the locality, and the priest obviously would be able to understand who it is. So I'm not going to read out what's blacked out. The local leader has run every meeting himself. I am the only one present with a Bible. It is this Bible that has protected me from the vile onslaught of questions from him. Everything from self-abuse, prostitution, and other vile questioning that I have been subjected to. They have absolutely nothing, and when they have nothing, they attempt to rile up the poor subject of priesthood and vile questions which have nothing to do with what I originally confessed to. How do you respond, you may ask? You stay calm, regulate your breathing, look them directly in the eye. They hate, absolutely detest eye contact, and you tell them the truth. This is another thing they detest, truth. Why? Because they know you didn't do it, and they can't pursue that point any further. Anyone that goes out of fellowship is corrupt. They've been involved in incest or had an affair with someone. They will all go to hell and so on. The narrative is the same for every occasion. You sit there, you listen, you agree, and you make the appropriate accenting noises. You tell them you feel you have strayed, been evil and wicked, taken the saints with you, and you debase yourself verbally, and don't forget to weep. This is very important. You must weep. Moreover, never start a point of argument from your own side. This is exactly what they want you to do and will use it against you. I'm accused of lying, and when I ask them to state what it is that I'm lying about, they clam up and say, well, we can't say at this point. You will know. Your conscience will tell you. Go to the Lord and ask him. Needless to say, the dear Lord hasn't said anything to me, as there isn't anything. Then they change tactics. Calling meetings at midday doesn't work. Let's change it up and call a meeting at, and I've blanked out the time. He won't appear, and that will give them a fresh lever and point of grievance. Oh shit, he has turned up. Blow and bother. Well, we would like to set you free. Don't want to keep you hanging. Just make sure every stone has been turned over and there's nothing left unconfessed. You politely agree and the meeting ends. On a separate point, you mentioned the young brother from Reading, UK, whose wife was mentioned by Bruce in the meeting. This brother was taken 1 week later. He was in rehab for alcoholism and had a heart attack whilst in treatment. 6 months of harassing later, and I am still going strong. Anyway, until next time, much love to all.
That's super interesting.
He pulled his whole crocodile tears out in the universal meetings of like how his family is being attacked by the opposers and blah, blah, blah. But you know what? It is really, really a sad situation with the hierarchy in there. And as much as they try and deny it, honestly, we all could shut down Get a Life and sit in our recliners and watch the whole thing crumble, because the way that they're trying to come back and show the world that they aren't who everybody says they are, they shoot themselves in the foot over and over. They need to just stop. That's the thing, is that the more they try and fight for themselves, the worse they make them look. But because they're so ignorant to their arrogance, they can't just stop and be like, maybe we should just, slow down with the PR campaign and, really listen to what's coming back at us and take some advice. But instead they can't, because they are in such a competitive hierarchical role that mindset keeps on saying, we must prove ourselves, we must prove ourselves, we must prove ourselves, instead of being like, we're really looking like fools, aren't we? I mean, the video that Lloyd Grimshaw put out inside the church hall of him with all the men behind in white shirts walking around, you don't really see any females. It's just so telling. Anyhow, here's that video and you guys can draw the conclusion for yourselves.
So we're coming here today to enjoy a great weekend together of Christian Fellowship. We've got about 1,500 visitors that have come to Sydney this weekend from 17 different countries. Growing our knowledge of God, Bible readings and preachings, hymns and prayers. And we really thank Sydney for hosting this event for us.
Okay, coming back to you again, Trent, back to things that you were spotting that made you question. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, were you ever a part of a prayer meeting where they prayed for the removal of people, or they prayed for what you knew was an implication for the death or disposal of, say, ex-members or people that were coming up against the church?
So yes, I don't know if I can point to specific ones. I wish I have such a terrible memory. I
That's
know
okay. I
I
just want like an
definitely
overall, like if you were ever a part of them.
yeah, I mean there definitely was prayer meeting. They would always pop them up for different reasons, right? Like it would be, this ongoing government matter and we need to, you know, we hope the election outcome is this way or this legal battle for this, custody of a kid in England. So there was a lot of that. But you're saying removal. I definitely remember praying for the removal of certain people.
I do
I guess
too.
I had never really thought about the wording of that. I guess maybe that was implied. Like,
I
yeah,
remember
I don't
there.
know.
I remember, Trent, do you remember ones for like the removal from people in power, like certain politicians or something that were like, or I think there was some prayer meetings during the gay marriage bill in Canada, and they were praying for
Oh
the
yeah,
removal of members of parliament that were for that and stuff like that. But I'm trying to remember removal, like you're talking, Cheryl, of like when they specifically talk against outsiders, right? Like when they
Yeah. So, I mean, I've
or
had some
opposers.
crazy emails come my way recently that implicate a very, very dark side of what they're viewing the Get a Life podcast and its members, and specifically myself, which I just want to let everybody know that all this stuff goes to the police. So, I mean, I get reports. Like, I think the thing is they don't realize that people in their inner circle that are playing the part are also talking to me and
yeah,
letting me know of personal prayers around the table or in the basement that are happening towards me. So it's dark, you guys. Like, it is dark. So I understand you don't like what I am doing. I understand that. The thing is, I have never, ever come on here, and my goal has never been to sit here and hate on you guys. My goal from the absolute very first was to protect the children in there, to protect the people in there. And because you won't talk to me, and because you won't sit down with any of us that are bringing up anything, and instead you throw frickin' needless lawsuits at us, and because you met a female that says, I won't allow it, you've now gone to this level of darkness. So I just want to let you know that when you talk about that there's a whole level of different hell for us opposers, I can guarantee you your level of hell is far deeper than what you think we are going to. Our intentions have always been, let's clean this mess up. You guys are making this so difficult. It doesn't need to be this difficult. And there doesn't need to be this much repercussion to those people inside that are suffering. You are causing your own suffering. We are just keeping up to the lies and revealing the truth through survivor stories like Trent, or through audio like Ellen Drever confessing to my husband about what he's done. I don't need to continue doing this podcast, but you won't sit down with us. So this podcast will stay on as long as I have people from inside, or from people leaving, or people that need to tell their stories. You guys have a way to solve this whole issue by just addressing the issues you have inside your cult.
have we?
And
By the way, this is totally out of order here. But like, has anybody proposed? Like, we get Bruce Hales, we fly him in somewhere. Like, we sit down, we record the conversation. Like, let's hash it out. Like, I'll host it. I'll fly him in. Let's debate. But the guy cowers away.
We had an open letter to Bruce Hales. We'd been working on it for a couple years, and I ended up deleting it. I garbaged it because when I heard of a story of his abuse to somebody where there was a police report made, my little naive bubble was popped. And from what I've been told from inner circle stories of how he wants another Aberdeen, and he also is acting just like JT Jr. I knew that, again, I wasn't going to expend my energy on somebody that is so narcissistic that he can't see the forest for the trees. So I ended up just deleting it. And I'm like, no. But the thing is that there's so many people, and I wouldn't even come in with anger. I don't, because my heart is literally, to me, there's just such a simple solution for all of this. Such a simple solution. And that solution is compassion. It's empathy. It's listening to the survivors. It is holding people accountable, right? Your empire, Bruce, of money won't even crumble. People will actually respect you if you were to actually sit in a room with all of us. You would gain much more respect. And maybe you would even get more money from the respect that you gain from it. If you sat down and honestly said, okay, Cheryl, what really happened to you? And what do you think we should do with Ellen? I don't even think Ellen needs to go. I mean, Ellen deserves to be in jail, yes. But to me, it's more about solving these problems. It's solving the pedophilia. It's solving the alcoholism. It's solving the marital abuse. There's all these issues that everybody has brought on up here that could be set. We could solve them.
I disagree with you guys a little bit on this, because I think it's a misunderstanding of the type of personality we're dealing with. You don't sit down with
That's why we can't do it
with Putin or Kim Jong-un and go like, why are you doing this to these people? Don't you want to feed your people or stop letting people die? Like, don't you have some compassion? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm being attacked. Everything's fine. Or right. Like there's a fundamental difference in the way that they even see the world. So
exactly. They're not real humans, right? So that's why I let it all go. And I quit spending my time on it, because when I finally heard the story that I heard, that little like 0.00001% of hope I had was deleted. And I knew that this man is he's got narcissistic personality disorder. He is a monster. He is evil. And I don't say those words lightly. If I didn't have the receipts to back it up, I wouldn't say it. And I think I held on to this hope of solutions far, 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 far longer than I should have. But for me, I hold on to hope. I mean, there's a reason why my last name was Hope. I hold on to hope until it hurts me enough that I end up on the floor in absolute tears to realize that hope was false. And I get enough receipts to say, Cheryl, what you're believing is completely erratic. Like, there's no, you can't hold on to this belief anymore. It's not true. And I cried for days. I almost quit Get a Life. I was so devastated by the story that I heard and the hope that I had to let go of. I had to regroup and realize that this is, again, coming about exposing what's in there so that hopefully governments, political people, like the other institutions that are around this could help us. And that hope in those systems are even dwindling. And it comes down to the voices of the people. It's why I started this petition. It's why I went and aired Ellen's video. It's why I do what I do, because it is the voices of each and every single one of us that come forward and do what Trent is doing today and reminiscing. And yes, it's hard, but it's also cathartic. It is very healing when you come on here and finally expose what happened to you and open it up to be like, here I am, blood, guts, and bruises, but I'm also standing and I've also rebuilt my life. Those two things can be held simultaneously. We can have this absolute heart-wrenching grief about the state of everything, but you can also hold on to this life that we've built for ourselves and that we fought for so hard. And I think it is something that each and every one of us ex-members need to sit and question ourselves. Why haven't I spoken out? It doesn't even have to be on this podcast. Write a book. Go to a journalist. Contact Michael Batchelor if you're in Australia. Contact Four Corners. Contact people. Find people who want to do things. It's just, we need more people standing up and speaking out, I think, to overcome the political and financial power that Bruce Hales has gained. So with that, I want Trent to go through his pictures and show us the beautiful life that he has built for himself.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I scrambled like 5 minutes out of the call and I saved some favorites. So let me share my Chrome tab here. This is the first concert I went to. This is John Mayer. If anybody knows me, they know I'm a
I
big,
so know him. I might
a
have
big,
been,
a big John Mayer fan.
a little crush on him at one point.
Oh yeah, who doesn't? And then that started my love for music festivals. So I went to a couple of those. This is meeting Raymond Chambers, another legendary ex-member. I met him in Amsterdam. That was fun. He was in Belgium. So this is like a complete random assortment of stuff in my life. I didn't really know what to pick out, but this is Frankie's family where we were all at the beach together. I wanted to show that because it's like you will find people who love and accept you and support you for exactly who you are. And it's a different kind of family, but it is family. And in a lot of ways, I think it's a lot more pure and honest.
Because you choose them.
Yeah. We went down to Belize and did this diving excursion, which was just the coolest experience of my life. I got to dive with there was some larger sharks, there was manatees, and it's one of the last places on Earth, I think, besides the Great Barrier Reef, where there's still a lot of active coral. So just you go down there, and it's like it's mind blowing. There's just so much to see and experience in the world, and like if you are religious and do believe in God, and you go do these things, it's not going to, trust me, it's not going to reduce your belief in God. If anything, you're going to look at it and wonder and be like, this is incredible. So even if you buy all the stuff that they're selling, like you should be able to do these things. You should be able to go live and have fun, and travel to the places that you want to. And this is when I got married. This is incredible.
That's awesome.
There's Dan. We're playing music. There's Raymond Chambers. Go experience other cultures. I went to Thailand, and the Thai people are nothing like I had encountered in the Brethren or grew up with. And just the most incredible, kind, loving people. Just really, really, really amazing time in Thailand. Incredible food. Yeah, you will just go experience things in your life that are just so counter to what they tell you. I moved to Miami. I got my dream car. Did a lot of trips to Europe, just trying to like see Greece and see the famous castles in Spain. And like, yeah, just really, really, really wanted to get around and experience things. And then more recently got to see Formula One. Like I tried to get a mix of stuff in here because there might be somebody out there who's like a motorsports fan and like they love cars. Like go to a race. Like go experience what it's like to see these things fly around the track.
Do you find that it's kind of like going shopping for new clothing because we were raised in such an isolated environment that we don't really know what we want. And so you have to really get out there and try different things to see like, yeah, I love that, or no, that wasn't for me, because it is super important. It's like, you think of when you go try on clothing, right? You take a bunch of clothing to the dressing room and like what fits and what doesn't fit. You kind of got to do that with like experiences and personalities and friends.
100%.
Yeah, exactly. This is
awesome.
So I just, yeah. And then more recently, I just bought my own place, and I'm, fixing it up and renovating it and hosting and having dinners here. And you can come out here and build your own community. And I will say a little bonus thing of when you do that is like, you have a really, really interesting story socially. Like people, I don't consider myself very good socially, but people love to hear the story, and you have something to talk about. And people are fascinated by it. They're empathetic. They want to know more. So like, as much as I felt like the weirdo who like didn't understand SpongeBob references, you will be appreciated out here, and you'll find your group of people who love you.
You can use your story to your advantage, because when you share your story, people will be incredibly moved a lot of the time. And especially when, like, I've in the past been like, oh yeah, this is my first time doing this, whatever it was, maybe, camping or whatever it was. And they're like, really? You've never done this before? Let me show you more. And
Hmm.
because you're almost like a tourist in the entire world. You're a tourist.
Mhm.
And a lot of the times, as you can probably attest, Trent, being a traveler, like a lot of the times when you go to a new culture and you show interest in something, those people are more than willing to show you more about their culture and their life or their food or whatever it is, right? So when you're trying things and traveling and you show interest, people are just going to gravitate towards that. When you share your story, they're going to be like, oh, like I remember one time I was like, oh, I've never been on a theme park ride. What?
Hmm.
Okay, we got to go right now. You know what I mean? And next thing you know,
Yeah.
we were doing a whole bunch of rides and everything. And I was like, probably in my late 20s, and I'd never done that. So sharing those things that you've never done with people, like you say, sharing your story, people are incredibly receptive and want to help you have even more incredible experiences.
One thing that we forgot to cover was your time in One School Global. You were a part of One School Global, right?
Yes, I think at that time it was called, I think it might have just been one school, or it transitioned as I was in it. That's when they
Yeah.
went through the rebrandings, but yes.
Yeah. Okay. Really quick. What was that like for you in there? And did you feel that it gave you the education for what you needed in the outside world when you left?
I mean, I'll answer the latter part first and say, no, I don't think it gave me the education I would have wanted. It wasn't bad. I don't think it was necessarily that. Well, I'll start by a little bit of the experience. It was like, I mean, so many brethren would be able to relate to this, but we were being schooled in like a trailer, literally a trailer. My class was 4 people, 2 of which were my cousins. So it was not exactly like an enriching social experience like you would normally have at a normal school. So I went K through 4 in public school. I skipped fifth, and then I went into Brethren starting in 6th grade. So that was my path. But yeah, it was very odd because like I would stay after school and we would build the deck that like at our own school. You know what I mean? Like it was just a very odd,
So it
unusual
wasn't the state
experience.
of the art facilities that they have now. I mean,
Well,
state of the
nah,
art.
no. I mean, it was like the place was crumbling and falling apart. It was like a complete fire hazard. And um, yeah, I think a lot of the teachers, I won't speak badly about any of the teachers. I think they were wonderful. I think we were just like understaffed, under-equipped. And the other thing is I had a lot of interests in things that I would have wanted to pursue and learn that I just couldn't. Um, and they just couldn't like offer that to you. So it was very much very structured, very focused on business. And of course, a lot of the science stuff was like filtered and a lot of books were still glued together and pages of the science book were cut out when it was like, oh, this is the reproduction section. Oh, well, it's conveniently knifed out. Like, really, you're going to stop kids from seeing basic anatomy about how their bodies work and denying them a basic education. And their parents aren't telling them either. So are you creating these kids who are unaware about their own sexual experience, like, how they move through the world, how they express themselves. It's dangerous. Like you can't like deny people that information.
Yeah, we end up with what we're ending up with right now as the
Yeah.
stories come out, right?
Yeah.
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 And it's, of course, if you look at it, it's, of course, on purpose. It's not because they're worried about the world polluting you. It's control of information because if people knew these things, they would be able to recognize abuse more easily and report it and recognize the system that they're in. So, yeah, it's all done on purpose. The control of information, the control of the internet, obviously, it's all designed to restrict you from kind of uncovering what's really going on.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
I don't have too much to necessarily bash on the education. I think by the time I came on board, we did like Cambridge courses and they were challenging. And I think our teachers were pretty good. But overall, it was just a bizarre, odd. We were in a farmhouse that my grandfather owned, and I would cut the grass there and we would build the porch of our own school and repair the roof when it was leaking. Like, it was a very weird experience.
And were you could go to university or were you denied that?
No. I don't know if I ever asked to, but I mean, definitely we're not allowed to. No sort of tertiary education. The closest I got while I was in there is they were like, well, you're a bright kid. Like, you should study accounting. And they had this accounting program that was through, I think it was through the UBT at the time. And they would sell you this overpriced, like, bullshit accounting course. I don't even think you would become a CPA. I think it was just like their own kind of thing. So yeah, there's no higher education. There's nobody pursuing, looping back to what we were saying before, there's nobody pursuing art and literature and research and science and technology. I would have, if there was a science and technology program, I would have like ate that up. I would have loved that. And sometimes I think, well, shit, like I might have wasted some of my potential. Like, I was a sponge back then. What could have programs I could have been a part of and learned and taken an interest in. And so, yeah, I think a lot of kids are being denied their self-actualization and doing something that could be good for the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that I wanted to talk about on this podcast before we wrap up here is there was on our Get a Life podcast page on Facebook, there was an anonymous person that posted one of the most hilarious satirical, it's a satire write-up. It's an article about Randy Thomas. And if you have not read it, you have to go to our page and find it. I'll put it up here on this screen. What I'll do is I'll attach the transcript of it in a file below so the insiders can download it and read it. Before we finish, though, I just want to mention the petition that I started. You'll see the image of it on your screen. This petition's, it's calling on the town of Maple Creek to be accountable for its relationship with the Rapid Relief Team and the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church. The Rapid Relief Team recently was at a Maple Creek event, and I had many people from the town reach out to me on it. I personally, myself, do not think that the RRT should be serving any town events right now while there's an ongoing police investigation into one of their volunteers. Alan Drever was a volunteer as of May 2023. And while they also have a court case, the slap court case lawsuit against me, I'm going to call it for what it is. Some of the things that I want to clear up in it is that this petition is for everyone around the world to sign. So because the Rapid Relief Team is a global entity, it's going to be treated as such. So it doesn't matter where you live in the world, anyone can sign it. If you need to keep your name private, change.org gives you the option to hide your name from the public, and your email address is never visible to anyone. Change.org only uses your email to verify your signature. So I just please, please, please go in and sign it. Comment if you can, because those comments, everything's going to be taken back to the town of Maple Creek when I get enough signatures. So if you support what we're doing, please take a minute to sign it. And just as importantly, share it with your family, your friends, and on social media. Every signature helps raise this awareness. The link is in the description below and on your screen, like you've seen. There's a ton of information in this petition to support what we are asking. And also, before we finish, I'd like to mention our ongoing GoFundMe for our legal case against the Rapid Relief Team. Our legal bill now sits at $181,700 US. And we know that this is going to be a long and expensive fight. We simply cannot do it without everyone's help. For the first time, as you've heard, over 172 podcasts, survivors are refusing to be silenced. We're refusing to be bought off or intimidated into backing down. This case has never really been about the cartoon bird. It's about the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church using its charity arm, the Rapid Relief Team, to try to silence our podcast that has fundamentally changed how the public sees them. Get a Life exists to give survivors a voice, to document their stories, and expose the deception, the abuse, and the religious coercive control that the PBCC has worked so hard to keep hidden. That's why they targeted us. They believe a lawsuit would drain our resources and force us to stop speaking. And they are wrong. We are committed to seeing this through to the very end because it's about far more than our podcast. It's about drawing a line in the sand and making it clear that survivors cannot be bullied into silence simply because an organization has deeper pockets. For decades, the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church, formerly known as Exclusive Brethren, has operated largely out of public view, and we now see that as changing. fast. Around the world, more and more people are seeing it for what so many of us who escaped it always knew it was, a cult. And I don't use that word lightly. For those of us who lived it, cult isn't just a label. It is a lifetime of fear, control, isolation, broken families, and horrific trauma. It's the word that finally gave so many of us an explanation for what we experienced. And once we understood it, everything made sense, just as Trent has explained today. The stories are finally being told and the truth is finally coming to light. And no lawsuit is going to stop that. No PR campaign of the PBCC is going to stop that. To every single person who has donated, whether it was once or every month, we can't thank you enough. Your support is keeping this fight alive, and every one of us at Get a Life is incredibly grateful. If you'd like to help us continue this case to the bitter end, you'll find the GoFundMe link in the description below and on your screen. Thank you for standing with us. And thank you, Trent. Thank you for trusting us with your story and for allowing everyone listening into one of the most difficult periods of your life. I know so many insiders are going to appreciate this, as well as ex-members that have reached out to us. Lane, thanks for joining us today. And finally, to all the insiders listening, thank you. Thank you for your emails, your messages, your phone calls, and for the incredible courage it takes to quietly reach out while you're still inside. Every single day, we hear from people whose lives are changing, people who are beginning to ask questions, and people who are planning their way out. We're all watching as this empire crumbles brick by brick. Stay strong. Stay curious. Every question you ask, every conversation you have, every small act of courage chips away at the control that has kept so many trapped for generations. The more people who stand up in whatever way they safely can, the less power Bruce Hales has. Until next time, much love to you all. Bye-bye. How can you support Get a Life podcast? We are currently raising funds for this legal lawsuit against Cheryl and the Get a Life podcast. Please check out the GoFundMe link in the description of this episode. Thank you to everyone who has donated. You can donate internationally via PayPal at www.paypal.me/getalifepodcast. Or you can scan the QR code on your screen that takes you to our GoFundMe. Every donation helps keep this project alive. If you are in a high-demand religious group and need help, please go to oliveleaf.network. To share your story or be a guest on the show, email info.getalife@proton.me. You can find all our Get a Life merchandise on our website at www.getalife.net. Please remember to like this video, subscribe to Get a Life, and comment.